The woodland is home to my sweetheart. She lives on a few acres, but there are a few houses close by, so it's not too remote. The property is surrounded by a lengthy, ungated gravel drive, a simple chicken wire fence on two of its sides, and a creek on the other. Approximately one night a week, I go to see her. I hardly get to see her other than when she's living with her dad. She's worth the danger and foolishness, no doubt about it. Nevertheless, my friend drops me off at a small, improvised parking lot a little distance from her house, where I wait until her dad goes to bed. Nearby, there's a hiking trail for which the parking lot is designated, and off it lies an abandoned railroad station used only for maintenance during the tour train season. It's basically just a covered cement space with a beat-up recliner that someone left there and a bench, but it's far more comfortable than standing on the roadside. If something is taking an excessive amount of time or I have to be dropped off early, I wait up there. 3 weeks ago, I was fiddling with my phone at the station while waiting for the signal when I heard some heavy footfall coming. Not a big problem, just a night hiker or homeless guy. I am a man of considerable stature, standing at 6 feet 1 inch and weighing in at 240 pounds. I am not particularly fearful of footsteps, though. They pause when they get behind the building's back wall, and it sounds like the man is leaning against the wall. I yelled and screamed something about wanting to talk or something, and then I heard the footsteps start up again, this time in the opposite direction. Remember that I have nothing to guide me, just the screen of my phone, and that everything is dark save for the moon and stars. I turn around and look back, but I see no one. I had no idea headlights were coming last week when I was making my way from the parking lot to her house. The headlights are shining on a pretty enormous person figure that is about 30 yards behind me on the opposite side of the road. I froze at the idea. Fuck, it's her dad. Poor decision. I nearly instantly realize I'm a fool and attempt to walk again, but the headlights blow off my night vision, leaving me partially blind when the automobile drives by. I quicken my pace to a brisk jog as soon as I hear the person cross the street. Not only did she not arrive at her house and enter, but I could see another car drive by and someone appear to walk out of the driveway and down the street. I dismissed my paranoia. I think it was anxiety, but I had the same feeling of being watched when I left. I heard splashing 2 days ago as I was leaving her house and was sitting down to tie my shoe at the bottom of the porch. Large, distinct splashing, as to someone hurriedly crossing the stream. This little, heavily forested island is surrounded by a creek that divides in two. It is roughly as large as a one-lane road on either side, although it is extremely shallow. The whole thing is at least 50 yards from the home, and it's at the base of a bare slope. I booked it the fuck out of there because it seemed like this man was running at full speed. From what sounded like the side of the road, he followed me the entire distance. I'm so terrified that I'm checking behind me every few steps. I hear him, but I can't see anyone in the vicinity. When it was simply gravel crunching and rustling on the side of the road earlier, I hear his feet contact the pavement as I'm strolling in the middle of the road and not a single car passes. I start running across the parking lot to the lone streetlight in the vicinity at a crossroads, and I catch a glimpse of this man wearing a black hoodie as he vanishes behind some trees across the street. My friend should have been waiting for me when I call him. As I converse with him outside in the street, I can hear people rustling and stomping all around me. It sounded like he was right there, even though I didn't see him cross the road. There would be another stomp, rustle, and twig break every few minutes from a different direction. Someone was trying to trick me, otherwise, I would have seen them, heard them, or been attacked immediately. It wasn't a wild animal, and it wasn't a robber. Before my friend arrived, I swear to God that I spent a good 10 minutes crying and rambling to him about it out of fear. When we turned around to head home, we both saw the guy emerge from the trees and wave at me. I have no idea why this is occurring or who this guy is, but I am terrified for my girlfriend's safety and I don't know what to do. This took place near the Peruvian border in the Amazonas. I lived in the forest, which is an incredible location to live, and I had a large group of friends of all ages. The terrorist organizations who attempt to take over the Amazon are the only awful aspect about the area. At the time, I was 7 years old. Every child in the village understood that we could never leave the village at night and that we could go any place as long as it was away from the terrorists. Since I was a small child, my parents have taught me to run if I believe things are about to get dangerous and to hide in case something happens. Every adult in the community, as far as I can recall, was celebrating something. It was, I believe, a Halloween-themed celebration in the Amazon. I recall that my mother painted her face in a tribal manner, and the kids all went to a residence to play and be safe. The oldest girl took command. When our parents left, she disregarded us and departed with her pals. She was 17 years old. 6 kids made up the closest bunch we could find. Leon, the most daring of the group at 14, spoke to the rest of us while I was among the youngest. We obeyed everything Leon said since he was entertaining, full of challenges, and knew how to look out for us. Yes, he was our friend even though he was careless. We knew he would never leave us even in the event of an emergency since we loved him. We played soccer and had dinner, and then the 6 of us got bored. One of the 6, Carla, came up with the notion to dress in tribal attire and makeup, just like our parents. We all nodded, and before long we were all decked up like children from the furthest reaches of the Amazon. We were joking about, as I recall, until Leon remarked, "Let's explore the Amazon and find a hidden treasure." We all applauded and decided to head out. Since the girl who was meant to look after us departed, it was simple to get away. We made the decision to set sail when Leon found a boat large enough for the 6 of us and a lamp. Even though it was close to late, we didn't mind. Imagine 6 dressed-up children searching for a made-up treasure while splattering water all over the boat. The jumble and us, no phones, no adults. It was the purest form of life. Everything was well until we heard voices asking, "Who's there?" And we noticed a boat approaching that was lit. Leon dropped the lantern quickly and told us to lie down on the boat's floor and remain motionless. It was among the most terrifying experiences of my life. I still vividly recall how we were all grasping our hands, our bellies to the floor, and not even daring to breathe. However, it was already too late. A voice yelled, "Stop hiding, I see you," as the man lit up our boat. When we got up, I noticed that 4 men, and I don't mean just little handguns, had guns. They laughed and pointed at us, saying, "They're a bunch of kids." Leon stood up and stated that we had to get home quickly since our parents were waiting for us. "Little children should not be here by themselves at night," remarked the largest man wearing a red bandana, as he chuckled once more. "You could vanish into this jumble and no one would ever be able to locate you." Carla began to cry, and I was really afraid at this time. "You're just a tribe member, or Hua in Quechua, so go ahead." And they departed. We all hugged each other, cried, and sailed as quickly as we could, in my memory. We shut all the windows and doors as soon as we arrived home. We slept on the floor together. However, prior doing that, we made a deal to keep it a secret from our parents and other village elders. Nobody is aware of what transpired that evening even now. Years later, I realized why they had released us. They mistook us for young members of the nearby tribe. They saw no need for us. I doubt that I would be typing this story if they hadn't realized we were from the town. My roommate and I experienced this 2 years ago when we took a drive into the National Forest, which is not far from our town. Our destination is a modest New England college around 3 hours away from any big metropolis. To put things in perspective, this woodland is the subject of numerous urban legends, and the locals, who frequent it frequently, have many beliefs about how to be safe there. My roommate saw that I was depressed because I had recently broken up with my lover. She saw that finals were coming up and wanted to help me distract myself. She proposed that we travel to a lovely location she discovered last week and simply unwind. We drove to this remote area in the forest after grabbing a few beers. As soon as we turned off the main asphalt road into the woodland, I noticed a few things that made me uneasy. From the higher ground the road was on, you could see the abandoned houses of a ghost town, and we observed an old doll hanging from a rope on a tree. It was creepy shit, but we drove on without really thinking about it. We pulled into a clearing, parked our SUV behind some trees, unlocked the back, and just began to converse and listen to music. After 10 minutes or so, 2 cars pulled into the clearing from the road. My friend didn't focus on them. Rather, she continued speaking. But from my seat, I was staring at them, and I couldn't take my eyes off what they were doing. A man emerged from every vehicle, engaged in a brief conversation before I witnessed him extracting an elongated item wrapped in a dark plastic bag from the rear of one of the vehicles. At that moment, I saw that these guys were armed, not with shotguns, which are common in this town, but with pistols. They then began setting fire to the bag. My friend turned around and noticed them for the first time when I told her to get down. I heard them shoot at it just before they lit it on fire, and as I tried to keep my head down and avoid looking at them, I noticed that black smoke was coming from the bag. I have no idea how long my pal and I lay there silently. But in case this was what we thought it was absolutely enough to let the panic set in and say to each other how much we loved one another. Eventually, I looked up and noticed that they were pointing at our car as they entered the woods, possibly attempting to locate us or trace our footprints. All I know is that I told my friend to get in the driver's seat and run for it at that exact moment. The guys heard me close the rear door and the car starting up, so they ran over to us. They then ran over to one of their cars and got inside. We over a hill and lost them as we drove far above the acceptable speed limit for dirt roads on a mountain. Before returning to our dorm, we drove to a nearby town and spent some time exploring to make sure no one was following us. We tried to make light of the whole incident that day and got really intoxicated before realizing that we had seen something we weren't supposed to, and so we started crying. Although we were initially afraid to inform anyone, we eventually did so to campus police, who called the authorities but were unable to locate anything.